Welcome to Community, the TV show. I'm Kathy Antunes, sitting in for Annette Sherman. Sarasota has an amazing new museum that's hit the ground running this season. And with us today are gentlemen who are part of the team that brought this amazing new resource and just a wonderful place and repurposed building to our community. So these three gentlemen today, we're going to start off Larry Thompson. You're the president of Ringling College. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to find out some interesting information about you, Larry, I didn't know. So
watch out.
I know. I'm looking forward to that. Dean Eisner, you are the chair. You're going to have to help me out. You're the chair of the Board of Trustees.
I was the former chair of the Board of Trustees of the college.
Okay.
And now I'm the chair of the advisory board for the Sarasota Art Museum of Ringling College.
Yes, and that is the full name, is the Sarasota Art Museum of Ringling College.
Yes.
And then Mr. George L. Miles, Jr.
Thank you.
Yes,
I got. Very proud of that.
You have your father's name, and the L is for Leroy. And you are, yes, now everyone knows. And you are the vice chair.
I'm vice chair of the Ringling College.
Of the Ringling College Board of Trustees.
Board of Trustees,
yes.
right.
Okay. So, you know, for people who've lived in Sarasota, the old Sarasota High School is a building that laid, you know, dormant for many years. And, you know, Larry, I'd like you to kick us off and talk about the vision you had to bring that building back to life.
So what happened, and I'll try to make about a 16-year journey. Okay, very short. Okay.
Yeah.
But what had happened is the whole idea of having a contemporary art museum in Sarasota started with a group of volunteers. The college, were not involved. Mm-hmm. And they originally thought maybe we'll build it on the bayfront and, you know, it'll be one of these great, you know, new museums, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Making a long story short, they did a feasibility study and that was not going to be possible for the kind of money that would have to be raised. Mm-hmm. But what happened then is there was a process going on about what to do with the historic Sarasota High School. And so we ended up, the Ringling College, with this group of volunteers, putting in a proposal to turn it into a contemporary art museum and education space for continuing education. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we got it, okay? We won. And it was one of those, now what do we do with it? It's like the dog catching the car, okay? Yeah. Now I got it, now what do I do? Yeah. So that's how it got started, because of the volunteers. Then we became involved, and then we merged, and so it became a part of Ringling College of Art and Design.
Which is,
so it was a very, very long process, and the volunteers helped the college with raising the money that was going to be necessary. We had, it started during the recession, the Great Recession, so our timing was not great in terms of that. But nonetheless, we continued on and continued on. And so now we have this wonderful, wonderful contemporary art museum here in Sarasota.
Yeah, you really do. And Dean, when did you come on board? Because this was a 16-year project. I know as long as I've lived here 20 years, so it's really been something to watch it unfold. But Dean Eisner, how did you join the team?
So I was on the board, and I had the benefit of seeing it go through the last stages, which was we actually raised the funds, and there was a huge fundraising effort. Kudos to the community, because this was all community-based. It was a desire from the community to have this museum available. Interestingly, we also, at the time we were only talking about the high school, but midstream, the historic Paul Rudolph building also became available, which meant we had to rejig the entire setting, which meant some more fundraising as well.
So we had to totally redesign what we had planned, because everything was going to be within the high school.
Wow.
Now we had 20,000 extra square feet. So it was a total redesign. That's part of what caused the delay in the last 3-4 years.
Wow, so, okay, so you had to be nimble and all, and now George L. Miles, Jr., when did you join the team? Yeah. When did you join the team, and what was your interest in becoming involved?
Well, I've had almost 60 years, actually 57 years, since I've always been a community person. I've worked in all sorts of communities in New York, Pittsburgh, and New Jersey. So I've always been involved in the community. And when I got head to Sarasota, and actually got to meet Larry and the board and see what they were doing and how they were involved with the community, it just opened my heart up. Said, I got to do something with this. I've got to be part of that. So I think that's was my incentive to join the board and be part of this great team here we have here.
So it was quite the process, because when it was a tough decision for the board, you know, many years ago about whether to undertake this project, because we knew it was going to be a major project, and it's not on our normal campus, it's a whole nother campus. But the reason for doing that is because we realized that we really wanted to be totally engaged with the community. Most colleges are very insular because they're an ecosystem unto themselves.
Yes.
We want to be different, so we wanted to be very involved. And we thought, okay, people like contemporary art, they should like Ringling College. So it was a way of bringing people into the college, about knowledge about the college as well.
Yeah, and Sarasota really didn't have a contemporary art museum until now.
That's
right?
correct.
So it was a real missing piece.
It was a missing piece in the crown, the cultural crown of Sarasota. Yeah.
Well,
and I think it was also very relevant to Ringling College that it's an educational institution. It is open to the public. It is not specifically for students. That we hope they enjoy it as well. But it's actually Ringling College opening the doors to art and education, because the hope is that people come into this facility, both the continuing education and the museum, and they learn something. They get engaged. They learn. And as I shared with you before, you know, I was one of those people that has appreciated art, but really not understood it to the extent that over the past 5 years in my involvement, I've learned so much.
The other thing is that, which I love about this place, is that I've been, like I said, in many communities. I've never seen volunteers step up the way you have stepped up at this museum, and stay with it for so long, and to get this thing done, and the love of what they're about. The other thing is, Dean said it. This is an educational institution. The art museum is an educational, but Larry is now pushing out this whole thing about creativity. And creativity, when you think about creativity, contemporary art really takes the ultimate in creativity. A person who has that kind of vision to see something come out of a trash can or a garbage dump and make art out of it is really something very special.
That's true.
Yeah, it's very special.
Yeah.
So,
And I'd add to this that contemporary art, unlike other art, the old masters and others, that was a point in time, and at the time that the old masters were painted, or any other period, there was relevance to what they were painting at the time. If you want a current look at thought and ideas and feelings and what's going on, it's contemporary art. So even though you may look at it and go, I don't quite understand what is being said here, when you learn what the artist was trying to portray, it is about what's happening now.
And artists are translators, aren't they? They have a voice and they speak to what's going on in the culture. You brought a video and some photographs, so I'd like to share those now. The first is just a really nice aerial view of the museum.
Right, exactly.
So when we pull that up, okay, here we go. So this is, Larry, why don't you tell us about it?
So basically what this is this is a drone, okay? With overview of the high school. So you can see how the outside of that historic high school has totally been redone. I mean, it was a massive undertaking just to bring it back to life, because it had to have brand new windows that had to be hurricane proof, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an amazing adaptive reuse. But then you'll see sculptures out on the lawn. So it's both inside and outside in terms of the art that is available. And then in the back of it is the Rudolph building that Dean just spoke about in terms of what was added onto it. So the entire complex is called the Ringling College Museum Campus. So it's the art museum plus it's the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, which is a part of Ringling College, and our own continuing education of non-credit art classes.
Oh,
So all of that is there at that location of what is normally sort of thought of as the new art museum.
So, okay, I didn't realize you can actually take classes there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's
And
right.
can anybody just, if I wanted
Yep.
to, I could just sign up and,
So the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, for example, there's like 3,000 students that take classes
Really?
there that are all liberal arts, and it's, it's primarily for adults. And then there's also classes that we have, ceramics classes and drawing classes and so on and so forth for adults that are non-credit. So it's a total educational, environment,
Wow.
especially when you include the Contemporary Art Museum, because as Dean said, that's what it's all about. So let me
Yeah.
add one other thing about contemporary art.
sure.
Because one of the things people always go, like Dean said, I don't get this, I don't get this. Just think about, back in the day with Picasso. So when Picasso did his paintings and they were showing, people thought it was just terrible, worst thing ever.
Right.
Now look at it, okay? But that is what contemporary art is. It's over time because it is what is occurring right at that moment.
Well, and it tends to, a lot of art can tend to shock, actually, because it is so different. The Impressionists were
Yep.
very shocking for their
Exactly.
time, but
Right.
then, of course, became
Same thing,
beloved
just
and-
shocking, like these people can't paint, right?
Yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly, and yet there's such a beauty to what they do. So the building blends new and old,
Yes.
and we have some other photographs of the main entrance as well as the interior. So if we can show those,
Okay.
here
So-
we've got the main entrance.
Okay, so this is the new main entrance. It's
Okay.
what I call the back of the building, okay? So it's not what you see on 41.
Right. Yes.
So it's the new entrance that comes into the Marcy Michael Klein Plaza, which is a beautiful, beautiful space. And then to the left is where the art museum is, and that's the old historic high school. And then on the right is the Rudolph building that
the
is part of
education
all the. It also
area.
includes part of the art museum and the the bistro that's going to be there and so on and so forth.
Okay. And you have I have to say, I was looking at your website. I haven't been there yet. I can't wait to go. But there's an awesome art shop as well.
Yes,
So-
exactly.
Yeah, I
So,
love
well,
museum shops.
We
and
had
you're-
actually we opened like December 14th to the public,
Uh-huh.
and it was a great sales for holiday presents.
Okay, so we can see the blending of the old and the new, that
Right.
modern facade and the new entryway, but inside.
Inside, so
Students
I
of
think the next
Sarasota
picture-
High School.
Yeah.
So our producer, he said he was the last class that went to the old building, but this is the entryway, right?
This
of
is the entrance that you see along 41.
Okay.
And the lobby was totally
Yeah.
redone because it's a historic lobby, especially for those who went to Sarasota High School.
Yes.
And so we redid it entirely the way it was supposed to be done.
Now, I was told, Dean said, you got to ask Larry about the floors.
Okay.
What about the floors?
So
There- maybe, why do I have to ask
So
him?
Larry's going to answer it, but
Yeah.
I just want to make a comment about
Sure.
the stewardship of the group of people that were so vested in this building and in the museum. They wanted to protect and honor what this building was. So you will see elements in the building that, in fact, are the building in its original state while it was being converted into a museum. So there are brick walls that were the original brick walls. There, the flooring, as you saw in the photograph, the mosaic, that was the mosaic. So there was an honoring of
Yeah.
Sarasota High School and how it was built. But the most interesting, and I want to give it to Larry to talk about, are the floors on the second and third floor of the museum. They're incredible.
Okay, so tell-
that's where the galleries are, in the
Okay,
second and
second
third
and
floor.
third floor.
And what the floors are, what's amazing, is
Mm-hmm.
that they're wood floors, but they're floor joists from the original high school when we took them
Oh.
all out. And they're really, they're pine, and
Mm-hmm.
so they were at least 100 years old.
Wow.
Plus, they believe that the area came from, they're actually about 500 years old.
The wood itself?
The wood itself.
Oh, my goodness.
And then so it was, remilled and so on and so forth and put in, and they are
Yeah.
they are like the talking thing of town when people go to that gallery. They love the artwork, but they all talk about the floors.
So if
because
some people say the walls could speak, but if the floors
the
could
floors
speak,
could speak.
500-year-old
right.
wood from those floors, which, I have to say, I studied history, and it's something I just think there's so much richness in learning about our past, but it's very sweet that a place that was dedicated to the education of Sarasota's young people, children, is being reborn in this way, and that you're honoring what that
honoring it,
building used to
exactly.
be. Yeah.
Honoring it
So-
entirely, and it has the same sort of purpose. It's all about education,
It
all
is.
of it. All of
And
it.
serving the community. I mean, this is education. I think it's all about serving the community, and I think this is what this is about. I think gives us an extension into the community in a lot of different ways. We've got Ringling College. Now we got the Sarasota Art Museum, which gives us an additional extension into the community.
And now also the Lifelong Learning Institute is
The
another
Lifelong Learning
extension
Institute,
into
Yeah.
the community.
So, George, you were attracted to Sarasota because of an art exhibit, weren't you? I
Yeah, a sculptor, actually, a board member of mine, Kathleen Mulcahy, was giving she's a glass sculptor in Pittsburgh, was on my board, and I was sucking up to her, of course. And I wanted to give her a reception here, and and that's what happened. I had a reception. I was going to invite a lot of my friends who I've met. Then I invited a number of the board members from Ringling, which I knew nothing about Ringling. And then they all came, and we had a great reception. And that's when I kind of started to fall in love. As Gene always said, you got to fall in love. I didn't fall in love until after I started meeting some of the outstanding individuals who were on the board. And folks who came, not only, I've never been part of a place where I've seen as many, I've been on a number of boards. I've never seen a place where the board members are as committed to a place as this. Not only financially, but their time, and also getting involved with students, getting to know who the students are. It's really it's something very, very special going on at Ringling College.
Yeah, and Ringling is, an ambassador of the arts for Sarasota, but out to the wider world. And one of the things you all shared with me is that the quality of these exhibits is of international quality.
Right.
It truly is.
Oh,
So that's one of
Sometimes
the things that's important to know.
Yeah.
This is not a museum that showing student work. We have like 6, 7 galleries on our campus. That's where that is shown.
Yeah.
But the museum is all about being a world-class art museum, and that's exactly what we have created. So it is to be known, just like the college, to be preeminent worldwide.
Yeah, I think that's the key for me, is that this is just an extension of being world class. I mean, we're world class not only in the college, but this Sarasota Art Museum is going to be a world class institution, and I think that's really very critical.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile talking about the programming of the museum because it is unique.
Yes.
There is no permanent exhibit or a collection at the museum. So those 6 or 7 exhibition spaces change all the time, anywhere between 3 months and 2 years.
So you have to keep going, right?
So we have
you
to
can
keep going and
if you're local, you still
bringing
keep
new
going.
artists
Yeah.
in. So the quality of the artwork, these are exhibits that are coming from other major museums. One of the pieces in the exhibit now it came from MoMA, or the artist was at MoMA.
Metropolitan
Actually,
Museum
we
of
didn't
Modern-
get that piece.
Museum of Modern Art in New York.
Right.
Museum of
Exactly.
Yeah.
Modern Art in New York.
We New Yorkers know that.
The exhibit that's currently there now was the last stop of a internationally acclaimed artist that has
Who's
covered the
Brazilian.
U.S.
Shout out to Brazil. My husband's from Brazil.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's about to take its journey overseas, and we are the last stop on the tour. So the
In
quality,
the U.S., right.
In the U.S., yeah. Because I know when I travel, I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to travel, we often do take a look at what exhibits are going to be in the museums, and it's a real break. I mean, especially these days where we are inundated with so much information, really appreciating art slows you down.
Exactly.
It brings you into a different
Exactly.
frame of mind.
Right, right.
Yeah, and
It's
you
very.
all,
It can be very Zen-like. you know, in terms of that. Right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
so speaking of Zen-like, that's a great segue. We have some photographs of exhibits on the grounds
Yep.
of the museum. So let's take a look at those. It's indoor, outdoor. So this is some beautiful Gothic kind of windows that,
Yes, those
that
are
you
Gothic
have
windows
updated.
that, precisely, and then below it is a sculpture by an Asian artist, and it's really, really remarkable.
And if we
and
go to the next one, it's a close-up of that sculpture. It's
of
called
that,
Celadon Landscape.
exactly, beautiful. And
So
then
this is made of Celadon, right?
silicone. That's exactly right.
The stone.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it gives you an idea of the size and scale.
And so it'll probably be there about maybe 2 years. So it lasts a little bit longer than most of the other exhibitions. But again, it's not permanent, as Dean said, because contemporary art is not really permanent.
Okay, but I have to bring up the photograph of the one that really intrigued me on your website. Is called the Zen Jail,
Yep.
which is such a juxtaposition. It sounds like a jail you'd want to be in. How would that work? So tell us about this one.
So this is, I believe it's a Japanese artist, and it really is that juxtaposition because it's about nature and being, you know, how refreshing it can be and so forth. And you can, you know, I mean, theoretically, you can actually go in and sort of meditate within this jail. So it's a pleasant jail.
It's a pleasant jail, yeah. Well, we all have our, you know, ways we think inside the box, like the boundaries we put on ourselves,
Precisely.
maybe that we don't have to. So
Precisely.
maybe that's part of the intention.
So one of the things I do want to mention is the executive director of the museum is also the curator. And so it's Anne Marie Russell, and she is the one who curated all of these sculptures and those twirling things you saw earlier outside, and then also the exhibit that's on the third floor right now of the museum.
Okay, and what is on the third floor? I know that they're going to be constantly changing.
So
but
right now the exhibit is color theory.
Oh,
so
yes,
it's
I read about
about
that.
it's trying to get to the basics of art and design, and it all starts with color. And so it's color in different kinds of forms. You know, so there's pieces that are, you know, made of fabric and threads, and there's pieces that are wonderful paintings like Helen Frankenthaler, for example.
Okay.
Painting is part of it, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I should
So
insert too
Yes.
that there is in one corridor, there is an artist who is pretty well established and acclaimed. He lives out in California now. And they are color pieces where the sun comes in through the window and it looks like a cathedral. It is that beautiful.
Wow.
And just by chance, this is an artist that actually went to Ringling College.
Right.
That's terrific.
And it's not typical, but he is so well known and so well established.
Yeah, so Ringling seems to do a great job of preparing your students for the wider world, and I want to get to that, but actually I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't tell the audience that interesting fact about you, Larry, that you started the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yep, that was
Ohio.
my baby in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah.
So you're no stranger to new projects.
Well, no, and I thought after doing that, I thought, I can't believe I'm doing another museum.
A totally different kind.
Totally
though.
different.
Totally, still an original.
Yeah.
And Dean and George, you bring pretty major business backgrounds to this work. Dean, you told me you were from a family of artists, and yet you've got a big business background. And how does that fit? Obviously, artists need to be able to pay the rent, and the school needs to thrive.
So I'm going to throw one out to Larry because I believe it so strongly.
Yeah.
I think in today's world, to be successful at business, you have to have creativity. And so I think creativity is one of the components of being successful in business.
Yeah.
And so I got the benefit of some very creative people in my life, also with mentoring from a father who was just an incredible business person as well.
Yeah,
So.
creativity brings fun to life. And George, how about you?
Well, it's funny. I always tell folks I am not a creative person by any stretch of imagination. My wife is. She's the person who can walk into or look at a wall and see something. What I see is a dark wall. So it's no creativity, but I can implement. I can see things. I can see once it's done, I can take it to the next level. I guess
your
that's
gift.
my only kind of a gift I've had.
Yeah.
So,
But
a
the
big
other
gift.
thing I want to say is that as it relates to creativity, to me, that's Zen to me. because the first chapter in the book of Genesis is what did happen. He said God created.
That's right. Yeah.
And that creation is really what this is about. And this makes this very, very special for all of us. So.
And we have such capacity to do that as people, and
Right.
the mission of Ringling College
We do.
is to
And
empower
creativity
people.
is not just for artists, it is for business people.
Right.
But art is one of the main sources of where you can learn it, because it's about the only course in school where you can really be totally creative.
Yeah.
But it's very important, because George, I would disagree with you. I think you're incredibly creative.
I think,
but in a
I
different
think,
way.
I think
Well,
that's probably true too.
Yeah.
So
Some days you don't want to know about it.
yeah.
But it comes in different forms. But you talk about art and museums and that's all creating work. It's different. Mine is from organizational development stuff I can
Yeah,
create.
right.
But that's the difference.
Well, the great gift of this museum is it's a place where we can all go and experience that recreation, recreation in ourselves. Right. So I want to give you all, we only have a few minutes, how do people, when should they go, and how do they get involved? Maybe they want to volunteer,
So the
Larry?
museum is open every day except Tuesdays.
Oh,
Okay,
just
it's closed on
okay.
Tuesday, all right? They got
That's the
to
traditional
do a day of rest
day.
somewhere.
Yes.
And it's open from 10 to 5.
Okay.
And so we encourage everyone to go down there and see that, because it is really awesome. Just even seeing the building and what happened to the building, let alone the art.
And it's Sarasota Art Museum of Ringling College and Design is the full
Of
name.
Ringling College, right.
Of Ringling College, okay. But the website is
Is
sarasotaartmuseum.org, right? And so
SarasotaArtMuseum.org.
people need to go there because these exhibits are constantly changing, right? So
Absolutely,
if you've
yes.
been 1 month, you might want to go
That's
the
significant.
next month
Yeah, that's significant.
It's
to
very
see
significant.
something
And we
new.
need memberships.
Okay.
Membership.
We need members to join and support this community. It's going to be a community asset. We need the community to support it.
All righty.
So we're asking those out
Well,
there to
on that
support.
note, I want to thank you all
Right.
for joining us today. Be sure to go out to the Sarasota Art Museum, become a member, and experience this amazing new resource. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
The time really flew. We bid you adieu from community. If you want to know why we love it here, so check out Community. Well, it's a who's who, a what's, when, and where show. It's a mover and shakers who care a show. Meet your neighbors and friends, each one has a passion. The topics vary from nature to